Good evening, everyone. We will call this work session of the Board of Education to order. Ms. Henry, if you could take the roll.
Ms. Saunier, Ms. Vowell,
Present.
Ms. Jones,
Here.
Ms. Cousins,
Present.
Mr. Davis.
Present.
We have a quorum.
We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we move on to our regular agenda tonight, we do just want to take a moment to pause and recognize the fact that today there was another act of violence in a school shooting that took the lives of 14 elementary students along with a teacher. If we could just take a moment of silence. Thank you. Dr. Adams will begin with the presentations.
Good afternoon to the board and to the public as well. We will start our presentation with Mr. Steve Carroll, who's here to provide an update, well, not update, a summary of the legislative session, 2021-22 legislative session. Mr. Steve Carroll.
That on now? Okay, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. I also thank you, Mr. President, Dr. Adams, for letting me go first. I apologize, but I have to leave after this to head back to Hannibal. My wife has a serious medical condition, and so I apologize that if I jumped the gun on somebody tonight by going first. Just want to give you a quick update. Those of you that read my end of session report, I really can't add to it. Those of you that didn't, or those that didn't get one, or those tuning in, as most of you know, it was a very difficult and trying legislative session, to say the least. And I think you see these every 10 years, although in my almost 40 years, I've never seen one quite like this, with the election being an election year and certainly redistricting and an open U.S. Senate seat where we had congressmen running for that seat, which opened up for state senators and reps to run. And then along with basically a dysfunctional Senate for probably 3/4 of the year. It just made it for kind of a wild roller coaster, not knowing what was going on from day to day. Certainly, I think that a lot of the problem was because of the conservative Republican caucus of the 7 members in the Senate that was arguing basically with Senate leadership for most of the year on various issues, made it for a very difficult session. Now, on the other hand, you had the House who went along, did their business, and as always, the last 2 weeks of session, they tried to load up every Senate bill that came over with hundreds of amendments, loaded them up like Christmas trees, and then the Senate had to deal with it. Although the Senate kind of pulled a fast one on the House by adjourning a day early and left the House to do nothing but basically just pass whatever Senate bills came over as was. So again, just interesting session. As far as public education, we were tracking 354 bills, not counting amendments or substitutes. So that was a task in and of itself. I think though overall, as difficult a session as it was, we came out, in my opinion, pretty good. I mean, we were able to kill a very bad and damaging Parents' Bill of Rights piece of legislation. Also, there was a constitutional amendment for that bill as well that would have been placed in the Constitution, which also had open enrollment provisions, also had provisions where school boards and school districts could be sued. It was just a nightmare. We were able to beat that in the House by 80 to 61 votes. So I think that sent a message to the Senate for them not to try it. I mean, we dealt with critical race theory, 1619 projects, all those mandates. We were able to defeat those. School board election recall, that was defeated. Also moving the school board elections to November, we were able to keep that from happening. Also for school board members to run as a party affiliate, that was defeated as well. We stopped the expansion of ESA voucher programs, also statewide charter school expansion, and also statewide open enrollment. So these issues aren't going away. They're going to be coming back. I think, though, our number one achievement basically was stopping House Bill 1552 as originally written by taking $18 million of San Luis Public Schools, basically just robbing Peter to pay Paul for the charter schools. You know, the charter schools are creatures of the state. And many of us felt that if charter schools was going to get any more money, it should come from the state coffers and not from locally. So we devised a plan. I know that Senator Beck, Don Thalhuber, who has worked on education issues and policy in the Senate for years, myself and others, come together that instead of taking the local dollars from San Luis Public Schools, that we would give the charter schools money through the foundation formula. And I think that's going to make legislators take notice more so of charter schools and how they're functioning, since they're now getting more state aid through the formula instead of taking it local. So they'll remain capped at the 04-05 level of local funding, and we'll continue to receive that. So we're happy that we were able to make that change now. If the governor will sign the bill, hopefully that issue will be put to rest for several years. Although there isn't now an interim committee on education chaired by Carla Esslinger that's going to be holding hearings this summer and fall, dealing with many aspects of public education, including the foundation formula moving forward. So I'm sure we'll be looking at that as well. As far as funding for public schools this year, I can tell you, very pleased. I think San Luis Public Schools came out very well. I think public education in general came out very well. For the first time since 1991, when I was in the legislature, we fully funded the transportation formula with $214.4 million. I think I talked to Angie Banks. I think she said that that would roughly mean about $6.8 million to the St. Louis Public Schools alone. We were also able to Prop C funding has increased by $195 million. We were able to get $37 million in the formula for the career ladder to restart that. We were also able to get $800,000 in House Bill 3020 for our lead paint fences around some of our buildings. Also able to get $27 million in the budget for lead-free drinking water and facilities in older buildings for school districts throughout the state, which was mandated in Senate Bill 681. So, and we were also able to, once again, get the $2.5 million line item appropriation for our reading literacy program. That's the second year in a row, and that's the largest single line item appropriation for any school district in the state. So we're pretty happy with the outcomes of that. Also, the other bill that passed was the epinephrine legislation was passed in Senator Beck's Senate Bill 710. And then also the omnibus reading intervention bill, Senate Bill 681, which had various amendments to it. I believe the San Luis, what we're doing with our reading program is going to pretty much mirror what they're asking. I know that in the budget, they also put $25 million for school districts to deal with that issue, but we were the only district that got a separate line item to $2.5 million. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. I mean, that's pretty much what my written report was. Again, it was just a tough session. Those of you that came down, I think you saw it for yourself. And I don't think they're going to get any easier as we move forward. But I am happy that at least we were able to take 1552 off the table, I think, in the years ahead moving forward. So with that, Mr. President or Dr. Adams, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Carroll? Donna?
I just wanted to say thank you for all the hard work that you put in during this session, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you. I mean, this is my 25th year, and I don't know where the years have gone, but I certainly have enjoyed it every year doing this. I can assure you that I appreciate the opportunity to represent this school district. It means a great deal to me.
I don't have a question, but I think I want to make sure you're really expressing how big this year was in regards to legislation. And it sounds like you're kind of being modest. I just want you to know, because to hear the fight that has been going on for the past 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, in regards to that particular bill, and to see how it impacted what we were able to do as a board, as the PAC, the Parent Association, as AFT, the union, all of us, and your team coming together and really having our voices heard. I can honestly say I'm ready for whatever other fight we have in the future in regards to this. And I want to make sure people understand what's being stated. For so many years, this district has been fighting to keep funds within this district to ensure we're providing the necessary resources and services to our students. And our fight is not against charters or any other school, district or entities. The fight was what's best for our kids. And we were able to show that and have the voice to be able to do it. And at the same time, we did help other kids that would need the services, but from the state level. Like you said, it's not them robbing Peter to pay Paul. We were actually able to come up with that particular formula where it's helping everyone and not hurting us whom we were already hurt, and so for so many years. So I think you're being modest. I think you have put in a lot of work this year. I think we all have, but to see the hard work that was done and what it took for everyone to come together, the different testimonies, the parents knocking door to door, even the kids were going up there. That mattered. And for that, I think we should definitely applaud you for a job well done.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate it. But I will add that for the first time, really, school board members and parents came to Jeff City more than I'd ever seen in my 25 years. And I think that made a difference. It woke up some legislators that, hey, this is a serious problem. We need to address it. And quite frankly, coming up with the alternative funding mechanism for the charters, it was really devised in Senator Beck's office with us sitting around a table thinking, the local taxpayers have never voted whether they want their local dollars to go to charter schools. And charter schools were creatures of the state. So let's pay them with state money and let St. Louis keep their money for their kids. And so I'm glad it worked out well. We just hope the governor will sign the bill now. We can move forward. So thank you, Tony. I appreciate that very much.
Just real quick. Sorry, Alicia, go ahead.
Yeah, I have the same. I just wanted to say thank you so much for your work and for everyone's work and the parents. I think what showed me that we did a really good job is I actually had a recent conversation with a parent who was a charter school parent, but they were able to understand, this isn't something that was anti-charter school or anti-choice. This is just saying that if you want to fund something, then you need to fund it. Don't take it from the public entity. So I think when you can communicate a message where usually the side that's oppositional, those parents and those family gets it, and we start having those conversations, I think that's really good. And I think the entire session, I was really impressed, like what's been mentioned at the collaboration that happened, and so I hope as we move forward that we keep that kind of model going where it's board members, it's parents, it's scholars, it's the lobbyists, like where all of us do that work. And I'm very pleased, I almost have a sense of hope, which I feel like doesn't happen in politics, that the people do have the power to reclaim their narrative and to protect their resources. And I think that we modeled that very well. So thank you so much for all of your work.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
There was one bill I wanted you to talk about, and I think this ended up as an amendment on the omnibus bill, but that's about the water and the filter systems.
Yes, that's in the omnibus reading intervention bill 681, where it mandates, and St. Louis schools will probably go to one of the top of the list of the school districts being able to qualify for that $27 million.
And so as I read it, and if this is your understanding, it sounds like basically it was sort of codifying the program that our district has been implementing for 6 years? For 6 years. Is that kind of how you saw it?
Absolutely. I think they totally took what we were doing here.
Yeah. So I was glad to see that. I was glad to see that other districts are going to now follow the procedures that we have to make sure that the water is safe. And I was particularly glad that they found $27 million of ARPA funding to fund it. So that's
Right.
going to help us out, but it's going to help
Sure.
everybody else out in the city, other schools in the city as well as other places around the state. So I thought that was a good, I just
Right.
wanted to highlight that part.
That was good use of ARPA funds, no doubt about it.
I just kind of want to ask you sort of a question. So, I mean, there's about 24,500 students who attend charter schools in the state of Missouri. That's about 3% of the entire population of students. And I was sort of amazed when I was up there with you to see the number of lobbyists dedicated to, and they were focused on bills like House Bill 1552 on behalf of this, these groups that advocate for charter school funding. Do you have any idea how many lobbyists are dedicated just to funding for those 25,000 students?
I don't know for those that are just strictly charter school students. I know that the education choice groups that advocate for charter schools or for, statewide expansion, whatever, there's 73 registered lobbyists. I mean, we are outgunned unbelievably.
And so as far as I can tell, there's only 2 school districts who have their own lobbyists, us in Kansas City. Is that?
That's correct. Now, Springfield this year did hire a lobbyist for the session. I don't know if they'll remain, but
I
that
think
is correct.
Springfield's the largest school district
Yes.
by enrollment.
Yes, and then North Kansas City, I think they're the 3rd largest. They have an in-house legislative liaison that works, Tammy Henderson, who does a good job for them.
So, so there's 4 for actual school districts. And then there's, of course, the Missouri School Boards Association, who kind of has a different tact. And then there's the union organizations,
School administrators.
the school administrators.
And I will say that 420, the local, they did an outstanding job
Right.
this year. They truly did. And I mean, all of the groups working together,
Right.
that's the only way we succeed against the onslaught of what else is out there. So we had good communication. We meet daily in the rotunda, all the education groups saying, all right, what do you hear? What are you hearing? What needs to be done? Who do we need to see? So I definitely think we're organized, which we need to be.
So I guess my point is, it's a small but mighty coalition, but how much does it help you to combat that 74 registered lobbyists and the money that they bring to the table in terms of campaign contributions, et cetera, to have actual constituents show up and voice their perspective on this legislation? How much is it a help?
Well, like I said, it was very beneficial. For the first time I saw that many parents from the San Luis Public Schools organized to come up to the Capitol. And I mean, that made a difference. I mean, it woke up our city delegation, say, hey, you really are organized. You're up here. You're doing the things you need to do. And other people, other legislators saw it as well. And you have to remember, we have lobbied outstate Republicans who are pro public education to our cause as well,
Right.
educating them that we have unique problems in the city and you support public education. Well, you need to support us in the things that we have to deal with. And they have come to the table. I'm very happy about that as well.
Well, thank you, Steve. Is there any other questions for Steve? I appreciate it. Thank you for everything, and please drive safely home.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. At this point,
so they could participate in an internship. Now, all of these internships, whether you went through as a CTE intern or non-CTE, they were paid internships at $12 an hour. And students were matched up based on kind of their interests if they were non-CTE, or their pathway if they were part of the CTE program. So a student would, at the beginning of the year, kind of express that they were interested in the program, and then we would have them enroll with STL Youth Jobs. We would then train those students with financial literacy training, job readiness training. They had the opportunity to open up bank accounts and have direct deposit. We also provided for them a job coach. Those that were non-CTE students had a job coach. Those that were CTE students, those students basically functioned, their teachers, their instructors functioned as their job coaches. So students then went out on their internship sites. They received the support from their job coach. They received support from their site supervisor, and they, every 2 weeks, they would submit a timesheet, and then that timesheet would be utilized to give them their pay through their payroll provider. And then we had the CTE students finish their internships at the end of April, and then we had some of the non-CTE students were able to extend into May. So that is where the program, that's kind of how the program worked for our students. And then what I'll do now is I'll ask Ms. Fry to kind of share some of the outcomes of the program.
Thank you, Josh. I'd like to first of all just say what a sincere honor it has been to have this opportunity. STL Youth Jobs has traditionally been a summer youth employment organization. We've been providing 16 to 24-year-olds during the summer months, mostly city residents, with job opportunities for almost the last 10 years. And for the opportunity to work with the district to develop this program in particular has been wonderful. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about kind of how it aligns with our overall organizational goals, and essentially just extends employment opportunities to more and more St. Louis Public School students as well. So thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about this year and answer any questions that you have as well. So as Josh indicated, Dr. Henning indicated, we worked with high school seniors in both CTE and non-CTE. We had a total of 535 that started the application, and 404 ended up in paid opportunities as well. As he indicated, job seekers could work up to 160 hours and make $12 an hour, regardless of whether they were CTE or non-CTE. And so all 404 interns who completed the registrations were placed in job opportunities. You can go to the next slide, please. I'm going to talk a little bit about some preliminary outcomes, and I'll share with you a little bit about the evaluation process that we are working on as well. We had about 85% of students complete upfront job readiness and financial literacy training. Those that did not complete upfront received the training throughout their work experience. As Josh indicated, job coaches that are assigned to work with youth are working with them through the duration of their work experience. And so they're addressing milestones and setting goals with the students that they're paired with, and then offering supplemental trainings as necessary based upon their own background and experience. I provided you with a couple of the preliminary outcomes that are related to feedback on the training itself. We worked with the St. Louis Internship Program, who facilitated all of the job readiness training. And we worked with about seven or eight different financial institutions who delivered financial literacy training throughout the month of January. We worked with the St. Louis Public School District and all high schools that were participating to create opportunities to conduct all of these trainings within the school buildings as much as possible within individual buildings, because of a lot of the COVID-related restrictions, we'll talk a little bit about some of our planning for the coming year as we look to build out more effective delivery of training, as well as the support that we're providing to the youth during the course of their work experience. We worked very closely with the district to not only access existing CTE work sites that were being utilized by CTE programming and teachers for the work experience that those individuals were placed with during the spring, but my team also brings about a little over 200 different internship sites through our summer programming to the table. And so what was really great about that is we were able to pair up a variety of different relationships and existing partnerships to create an even broader bank of sites that we were able to develop. We try to have as much diversity in our work sites as we possibly can, both public and private sector, large and small, in the healthcare and university setting, but also animal care, retail, business, municipal. I think I'm correct to say that Dr. Adams also had an intern in his office, which we greatly appreciate the participation. And we try to do our best to match individual young folks' interests with those opportunities. I will say animal care, healthcare, elder care, and childcare are some of our largest demand sectors from youth perspective. You can go to the next slide. Just need to refer to my notes here. In addition to that, I gave you a couple of quotes, and I want to talk just a little bit about what data we are in the process of collecting. So STL Youth Jobs works with an independent evaluator who evaluates both all the youth in our programming as well as all the employers that we work with. And we're in the process of synthesizing that information along with several focus groups and feedback sessions that we've conducted over the last several weeks as the program has been concluding. And those sessions are with our youth participants, with our employers, as well as with our direct case management teams. And then we do have a internal debriefing session scheduled with Dr. Henning and the district in early June to go through that information and really come up with a clear plan for changes that we would like to make to the process. Employer retention is a piece that will come with that. I will say on an annual basis, STL Youth Job Summer employer retention rate is somewhere between 75 and 80%. So we feel really confident that we will retain a lot of employers that will want to work with us again next year. And then in addition to that, you will also receive a full evaluation report of all of the qualitative as well as quantitative feedback from employers as well as the youth that have been a part of our programs. I'm happy to talk a little bit more about what that entails as well too, if you'd like. You can advance to the next slide. I think this is you, correct? Okay.
Okay, so this is just a quick look at the budget here. Our original budget was 1.6 million. We added city funds through the matching grant from the city. We utilized the first 760,000 this year. We anticipate using the remaining of those funds in next year's program. That took the total budget to 2.3 million. Our actual expenses as of 5/18 were $454,000. The expected total expenses will be around 1.6 million. The reason there's kind of a delay in that is the majority of the youth wages have not been invoiced yet. So that's the bulk of the money that is going to be spent. We probably won't hit that 1.6. That's a conservative estimate. The reason is that's an estimate based on the 400 interns that we had at working all of their hours at the $12 an hour rate. And that just, we didn't have 100% attendance every single day for all the students. That's just the normal life. So the actual use will most likely be below that. We're expected to have remaining funds of about $720,000. Those will all be GOB funds, SLPS GOB funds, because we will utilize the full city funds that they provide for us in paying for the program for this year. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so additional opportunities. These are some things that the program has kind of developed some kind of exciting opportunities for us. So one is the creation of established pathways to gainful employment. A great example of this is the St. Louis Fire Department. We have 10 students who interned there who have the opportunity. They interned as dispatchers. The fire department reached out to us and said, we are desperate for dispatchers, and we have students that wanted to intern there. So they embedded training and they trained and certified those students as dispatchers. 3 of the students completed applications. If we have a second at the end, we have a short video, you'll get to see kind of that program in place as a spotlight. But those are the types of pathways that we want to create. It's not just you get to intern, have an experience. It is actually there's job training, there's embedded in the internship program that's going to lead to something. In-house, we had Roosevelt students who interned at Melanphy Elementary School in their early childhood program. We're in conversations with the HR department and a local university to potentially use that as a grow your own program. And we're looking at how can we create something where we have our students start on their pathway down to becoming educators. And then I'm going to actually skip here down to the 4th point. I'll let Hillary talk about the 3rd and the 5th, but the 4th point, this summer, our Buildings and Grounds Department has actually registered as an SLPS site for the summer program. We have about 10 to 15 students from Roosevelt who have already filled out their applications. They're going to be placed with our Buildings and Grounds Department. They're going to start at Roosevelt High School. They're going to work with some of our custodial staff, some of our trades people, electricians, carpenters, and they're going to learn different skills. They're going to help work on buildings, and potentially they could travel to some of the other buildings that need some work done. And again, the idea here is this is leading to gainful employment. These are pathways we're trying to create for our young people through this program. And then Hillary, if you want to talk about the 3rd and the.
Yeah, so as I indicated, STL Youth Jobs also operates summer youth programming as well. We work with 14 to 24-year-olds during the summer months, providing paid work experiences, very similar to the Learn and Earn program model as well. One of the really amazing things about this partnership is not only just leveraging new relationships, adding more work sites, getting more various career pathway opportunities for all the Learn and Earn participants as well as our summer participants. But as of the time of submission of this PowerPoint, we had over 200 SLPS students that had already registered for an STL Youth Jobs summer job. I checked earlier today and it was at 307. That's giving a lot of access to 14 to 24-year-olds, well, mostly 14 to 18-year-olds, SLPS students, that we have a better way to connect them into summer opportunities because of this relationship. As Dr. Henning indicated, we also had 76 of our Learn and Earn participants that are working to date and will have the ability to work all the way through the summer with their current employer, or we will place them with a separate employer as well if that placement no longer makes sense for them. And then in addition to that, as Dr. Henning indicated, there is some ARPA funds that have been allocated to the district that have been used to support the Learn and Earn program. Has been a majority of the funding that has already been allocated to the district has been to increase the wages for all youth that have received a spring Learn and Earn opportunity. All youth made $12 an hour in the program specifically. And then in addition to that, there are some funds that are set aside to create a fall cohort of around 25 incoming seniors. And this will be a way for STL Youth Jobs and St. Louis Public Schools to pilot a fall program with the hope of working through some of the development of that to where we start the process of potentially creating a year-round employment opportunity for incoming seniors at St. Louis Public School buildings.
Go to the last slide. Oh, yeah, not the last slide. Okay, so lessons learned. So this slide could have gone on. There were quite a few lessons learned, but I wanted to highlight three specific lessons that we learned. One is we've got to get employment paperwork together as quickly as possible from our young people. So we're talking about social security cards, birth certificates, completion of payroll documents. These are the types of things that young people or any of us, if we get a job, we have to do these things. And so we learned early on, we kind of put the information out there, but then we had students who now I can't find my social security card. I can't find my birth certificate. So we ended up kind of being a little reactive this year. Next year, we have some things in place. We've actually already started right now with some of our CTE programs with some of the juniors. We've already started kind of getting them ready and preparing them to have those documents even now. Second thing is streamlining the timesheet collection process. When we involved CTE, we kind of took a fixed structure of how we collect these timesheets and payroll, and we put it over programs that in a lot of ways functioned in very different ways throughout the district. And so there was a little bit of the grinding of gears trying to figure out the best way to collect those timesheets. So that's something that we're going to have a better process in place to make sure that's done in a timely manner. And then finally, the pre-internship training, doing 10 training sessions, 3 days each, all in the month of January was pretty hectic. So what our hope is right now, we're partnering with 9PBS and some other organizations that want to do what we'd like to do is a professional conference. So our interns will show up at a conference. They get to have that experience that most of us have had where, you go and here's your little, you pick up your agenda and your sessions you rotate through and you have your grab bag and whatnot, and they'll receive their job readiness training, financial literacy training. They'll receive the ability to connect with banks and open bank accounts. They'll receive support if they need to help finish payroll documents, those types of things, all at this session. So we're working maybe with a local university. We haven't got the site picked out yet. But the idea here is to bring the students together in a big training session, as opposed to having it broken out into all these different sessions. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, last slide. Okay, so this is if we have a minute, if Ms. Van Noy, if you wouldn't mind clicking on that.
Understand is there is nothing that you can't do. There are the only things that you haven't done yet.
Well, the Learn and Earn program is a partnership between St. Louis Public Schools and STL Youth Jobs, and we're providing around 400 high school seniors with spring internships.
I was one of the first people asking when we were going to start the internship. I was always asking, like almost every day, every time I had class, always asking.
St. Louis University Hospital, 1201 South Grand. Freshie Hickory, map 116, cover 29 respond.
I had high expectations for this when coming in because even though it is an internship, I'm going to use this as a way to become a dispatcher after the program, which will honestly really help me because I'm really interested in it. And this is a way for me to actually, get a job and make money, but not really about the money. It's more about the aspect of helping people.
I'm also just very impressed and heartened by the fact that we have so many youth that want to do things that are giving back to our communities, whether it's working in a St. Louis public school building or it's working here at the fire department or in a hospital setting. You know, it's wonderful, highly durable, high demand jobs.
It helps give them a broader look, if you will, of what the fire service truly is. You know, it's not just a matter of guys or women riding on a fire truck and running a building and putting water on a fire. There's so much more involved with the fire service, you know, inspection, ordinances, dispatch, the EMS medical side, the research, the public education, public information. So that it's a wide base. And what this also does is they talk to their friends, they talk to the other people in the school and say, there's a lot to do over here.
We are not an organization that is specifically pushing youth to go to college or specifically pushing youth to go straight into the job market. It's our goal to determine what their goals are and to help them get there, whether it is going into a credentialing program, pursuing an EMT program post-high school, or going to a 2-year or 4-year institution. A lot of getting job experience is getting exposed to potential career paths that you may want to do longer term, as well as figuring out how to get there.
The fact that I can be here like in the time of someone's need and helping someone when they need help, like if I can be there for them, I'll be happy.
Thank you for your
process, not here, but the process is basically the job coaches and those subcontractors, they help send them in, they're paid, they submit the invoice jobs to them, then submit us. So kind of basically a three-step process. So it's play, but yes, they have it.
So the 454 is this payment to
Yes.
STLU
Correct.
because they've already paid out.
Correct.
Okay. Then in regards to the 229, and so is it that the CT instructors or the way that the program is set up, they're actually assisting those students on getting it?
Exactly.
And how are we determine which, like I said, goal I know that we are we just focusing on that have programs and utilizing that school to identify schools that may not be part of the CT program that falls on actually going throughout or high school schools themselves actually.
Yeah, so it's open to any senior at every. So for example, not they have like those like read by their entire class. Like with Sumner, for example, I was in Sumner class. Their own that entire kind of has sort of like similar every senior. So it really depends on the patient. Some
So, and I think my last prep STL go to assist me. And at this point, they had 100. And you're saying part of the challenge, I understand that level of getting out in time, trying to actually market. The fact, but I think those that is just part of the things that I'm kind of the 100 students, and we know that there are so many jobs that are needed, but there are so many students that need jobs. So I think the challenge for me is how is you all doing on the communication of marketing program. I saw something
total combined cost not to exceed opposed to $100,000. For the uniforms? Okay,
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
all right, there was a small confusing typo, so I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, we'll relook at that. in terms
All
of
right,
writing.
thanks.
And I had a question about the same item, Natalie. Who are the uniforms for?
School security.
Oh,
Well, let me look at it. I'm sorry. This is the uniforms for students.
which school, I guess? I'm
All
asking.
schools.
All schools.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It gives schools the ability to purchase uniforms. It's just under one vendor. And so we do it for the entire district. And then sometimes schools might spend 1,000 here, 1,000 here. When it gets to 15,000, they have to come back to the board to approve it. So we're asking the board to approve for 100,000. And then schools have flexibility to use their own dollars to cover it, to cover the cost, but we are getting it approved from a district level. They do this every single year. It's just that if they get to over 15,000, then we have to come before the board. So we're doing it before the school year starts, so that schools have flexibility to stay under that amount.
Do we advertise the schools that actually wear uniforms? Because I'm not familiar with all the schools that have uniforms.
We don't, from a district level, the schools do it because obviously parents have to decide if they want to wear uniforms at the school. They normally take a vote, and that's how it's normally approved. But we don't, from the district level, advertise this is a uniform school or not a uniform school. It changes from year to year depending upon how parents vote for a uniform. Some schools do them and some schools don't.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd just like to interrupt for a second. I'm getting messages that people who are watching online are not able to hear if there is no sound. Could we take a quick break and make sure that is working? Okay, we're good?
Any other discussion about the June consent agenda items?
I had one question about the 6/14/2266 to approve the renewal of purchases of services with Follett School Solutions to provide library collections, fiction and nonfiction print books. Is there anything that makes sure that these books are culturally relevant in content, and will our educators and students have any input on this? Or is it basically we're just we're contracting with them to send us a batch of books for each school? I guess I'm curious how their process works for curating those collections for the libraries.
I will provide that to you in writing, Ms. Val. I don't have it right now off the top of my head, but what you're asking for is what's the selection process, and are we having culture relevant books?
Correct.
Got it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion about the consent agenda?
Yes, I do. I wanted to know more information about 0614-22-62. It's $280,000 to provide computer science engineering. Okay, so this amount will be split between all the various schools?
Is to cover the curriculum materials and training for schools that are participating in the Project Lead the Way.
This is an independent vendor, correct? Or
Yes, ma'am. It would be PLTW, which is Project Lead the Way. I'll get you all the detailed questions regarding that as well prior to the next meeting.
Anything else about the consent agenda? It's a big one, so I'll give you a
Yes, a
second.
lot of items.
Okay, well, if there's no more questions, we'll move on to reports of the board or board items. Actually, let's move on to the discussion first under number 5. The first one that we want to talk about was public comment procedure at board meetings. And we did just want to talk about just a sort of slight tweak at the public comment, the public comment process. And if there's any discussion about any potential other changes, that we want to consider, I'd invite the board members to talk about that. But all of you have been emailed a new suggested outline of some tweaks to the public comment. And the two highlights are essentially this, that speakers that want to speak at the meeting can arrive beginning at 5:30, and there will be an iPad available out near the security area where they can sign in to register. And that way they'll be able to continue to register and if they do come in late, and we'll have access to that information, especially since public comment is the end of the meeting. Sometimes people aren't able to get here by 6:30. The policy still remains the same, that it's a limit of 3 minutes per speaker for a total of 30 minutes. So it's eligible for 10 speakers. We haven't had 10 speakers in a year, so it hasn't been an issue in terms of the amount of time. And in addition to that, we've had a lot of speakers who have had handouts for the board. And in order to sort of streamline that process and make sure that that is given to us and there's not a delay in the public comment period making the meeting any longer, we're going to ask the people that have handouts to give to board members that they give it to a designated person at the beginning of the meeting. And so they don't have to stop and come and approach all the board members. And we'll also ask, and just to clarify, that people remain in the seating area behind the podium and not get up and walk around while other people are speaking. So I think that I summarize all of those potential changes. And I think, Dr. Adams, you said that our next regular meeting will probably not be in this location, but will be in a school location, and we'll be going forward for a little while going to school locations.
Yes, sir. And in light of the fact that the board has, at least the administration board will be working on a bond. We normally use this room as our war room as we have people making phone calls and all of those things. And so likely will be tied up for the next 3 months. And I'll be working with the board to identify a school location likely Colleen or Vashon for meetings moving forward for the month of June, July, August. We should be able to get back here. So the month of June and July for work session and a regular meeting.
So any other discussion or suggestions regarding those small changes of public comment, or any other concerns about public comment?
Yeah, I had a couple thoughts. So first, in looking at practices from, excuse me, from other districts, which I have visited or watched online. Well, first of all, we haven't had more than 10 speakers in a while because of the pandemic, and we've been limiting our attendance. So that has to be taken into account. We may very well have more than 10 speakers sign up. And so in looking at other practices, sometimes someone wants to come and speak to the board about something that is going to be voted on that agenda. And it's very important for them to talk to the board beforehand. They might have information that we would like to hear before we have a final vote. So it might be beneficial for us to break that up into before and after. And personally, I love public comment and I like staying as long as possible. So I don't mind if we were to extend that to past 10 speakers. And I believe in the past, we had even had a 2-minute limit to accommodate more speakers. But in order to get more robust comments, we extended it to 3 minutes at some point. And I don't remember when that was. But I do think it's important to hear from people before we vote. And when we have these walk-on items or we have something come up, you know, it's not like someone can always comment at the board meeting beforehand or the board meeting before the current board meeting. So if they could speak at the beginning, that may be important. Additionally, as you mentioned, not everyone may be able to get here before 6:30 to sign up. So are we going to look at having a way for them to sign up online? Did I understand that correctly with the iPad, or to sign up beforehand?
So I talked to Ms. Henry about that, and we looked at some examples of people that do that, districts that do that. I think Springfield does it, Kansas City may do it. There may be 1 or 2 others. The issue that has been arising, and this may be a pandemic issue as well, but if we're limiting capacity in the room and 10 people sign up to speak the day before, we have to save them 10 seats. So, well, if they don't show up, well, then we've potentially excluded people from coming in. So it seemed like, you know, we'll try this to solve the one problem of, you know, people not getting here by 6:30, because right now the problem is we have a list and the list is done and we bring it up here and then there's no way for them to sign in. So electronically, you know, and hopefully it all works properly. If they sign up electronically, we can see the list at real time by the time we get to public comment. So that was kind of the thought. So we thought about that. I kind of thought that was the way we were going to go. But in terms of the seat saving thing, that seemed like that could potentially be an issue. And I've seen in other districts that have done it, it has become an issue. I think Springfield kind of had that issue where all the seats were saved and people came at public comment time. And then people that wanted to come watch the meeting didn't have a seat. So maybe if the pandemic ever totally ends and we don't have a room capacity issue, we could examine that, but that seems to be the issue with that. As to your other point, correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember, and I've only been here a year, and so we didn't start public comment back until right when I started, because we were allowing people back in the meetings. Was the public comment at some point moved after presentations, but before the vote? Do you remember?
I believe we used to have it at the beginning of the meetings. Am I right, Donna? Before
Right.
we were in
did
governance?
have it at the beginning, and then we broke it up, and there were a few people that were able to comment at the end.
I think part of that was because not everyone can get here at the beginning. And we did, but then again, it's also inconsiderate to make people wait for us to hash out everything if they just want to say something. So maybe in order to get more comments and be more inclusive, we could break it up for public choice. But given, I'm not sure when we are looking at increasing our capacity in the room, obviously work sessions aren't as well attended. We have 2 audience members. Thank you for being here. But when we're looking at, especially the next couple of months, going to these
One
schools.
has to be here and the other one is just our biggest fan. So
That's true. And we love you both. But when we're in the schools and there's more room for spacing out in an auditorium, and we just had graduations where people were all in a big auditorium. So at some point, we're going to need to look at being more inclusive, either in this room or in Vashon or at Carlane or wherever we end up meeting. But we could potentially test bed some of that, some of those changes in a bigger room with more room for public attendance, at least for the next few months.
Yeah, I think one of my comments is similar to Natalie's. I feel like we're so large of a district, so to have a limited attendance capacity of 20 is just like, I get why, especially given COVID, but I honestly hate when I have to hear about people having to wait outside. So I like the idea of us finding a space where we can fit more people. And also, I grew up in the church and they used to always have overflow rooms where if service gets full, rather than you just having to wait outside, even though they would be watching kind of other people, you're not outside waiting. So I don't know, just maybe something along kinder accommodations, because I'm also thinking of people who have different levels of abilities and ableism. And so waiting outside is not always an option. My next thing is may not be possible because we are so large as well. And I know we have the YouTube thing, but also other ways, and we have emails, but maybe other ways that people can comment. I'm sure we all have I've heard it from teachers. I'm too intimidated to come talk to the board and get in front of you all, but I do have thoughts on things. Or I've heard from parents oh, my work schedule is crazy, so I can't make it. So if there was some avenue and maybe there was a deadline of submission date by where you could submit a comment or something that could be read by a staff member or the board leadership or one of us or something like that, so that another avenue for just being inclusive and creating opportunity for as many people who want to have their voice in the space, have it in the space.
I'd also, I wanted to voice some concerns about having more people in the audience. I understand that people want to be here and make comments, and I welcome that and want to hear from them. But now at a time like this, I really would like to exercise extreme caution, because there are a lot of people who are copycatting the violence that is going on within our schools. And I want to exercise as much caution as possible, because people are making threats, according to the news outlets and the FBI, against schools. And so I really want to hear more security beefed up in the schools and at the board meetings as well.
Any other thoughts or comments? What I'll So we've got all this down. I thank you. If you got anything else, let me know.
I would just add that
Yeah.
I like, I think it was your suggestion, Natalie, or maybe you mentioned it, Matt. I like the idea of having public comment before the vote, but after the presentations, just because I also feel like, just like we get information from those presentations, people who are going to be commenting, I also like the idea of them having the opportunity to have that information as well, but then us to have their thoughts when we're making our votes.
Okay. Well, we'll take these suggestions. I'll talk to Dr. Adams, talk to Ms. Henry, and we'll figure out, how we can incorporate them, what we can do, what we can't do. And, we can always adjust as things go on. I think as we're heading into the summer and we're going to spend it sort of on the road, that's going to alleviate some of these concerns, but we can sort of try things out in a different way. So when we do come back here at the beginning of the school year, we may do some things a little differently.
And this is all in bylaw 9358. So I don't think anything that we're talking about would require a bylaw change because it's a fairly loose bylaw, but we could always look at that if need be and have a vote.
Right. Thanks. The next thing I just wanted to bring up before we get to board reports is the MSB Igniting Great Ideas Summit. So hopefully everyone has gotten the invitation to do that, and you're going to be able to attend at least on the Saturday. And then we hopefully can have use that as sort of a mini retreat as well. Yes, Ms. Cousins.
I tried to click the yes, but it wouldn't work. Just so you-
I believe Ms. Henry has recorded your attendance. Everybody else able to make out? Okay. I found the button, but if you looked on your phone, I think it was harder to find, but on a computer, it showed up. But it was cool. I didn't know you could do that. So, all right, great. So next is reports to the board or board items.
Oh, hold on.
yes, ma'am.
About the Igniting Great Ideas Summit. I just wanted to make sure that I understood everyone is coming. That's really cool. In the past, we have not really had full board participation at many events, especially with our superintendent. And I am really looking forward to this opportunity to not just have our board network with MSBA and get some information for them, but to network with each other, to kind of build some team building as trite as that is. But I think we need to really work on a lot of our best practices, a lot of our governance, and this will be an excellent opportunity to do so, because a lot of times it's difficult for us to do that when we're in the public eye, and maybe some things are intimidating or strange, but getting to know each other as people and how we operate is immensely valuable. And every time I go to one of these things, I'm always jealous of Kansas City. They have everything together and they're lockstep with their superintendent. And I look forward to us working all together very well, especially when we're going to be welcoming 2 new board members at some point in the future. So getting everything together and making sure that we are experts at our governance is important to me.
Great. Dr. Lenz, are you going to be in St. Charles in June? Okay. I'm actually very happy to hear that. I mean, I'd love to see you, but I'm glad. Okay. Anything else?
I don't have a report per se, but I have to say this. One, I want to commend Ms. Donna. Yesterday was very moving for me to be able to attend 2 of our graduations, but to know that Ms. Donna pretty much attended all, if not, I know it was 11, but that's a lot. But to be a part of that and really see what our kids and the principals and the administrations have really strived for, it's all the more reasons why I know I'm here. It was more of a, aha moment for me to see that. And it was beautiful. It really was. It was beautiful. And I was very proud of what St. Louis Public School schools and students did in regards to supporting these kids in the graduation ceremony. And it was big because of COVID and we were shut down. And that was something that really meant a lot to the students. And I think those are the things that we really need to start showcasing more, the positive things, and to see all the kids the two graduations I attended, the success and how they were literally thanking God and going across the stage. They weren't, acting out. They were literally thanking God. And I had several students that you see their lips literally saying, I've been praying for this day. And I think that's huge. But for Ms. Donna, because that was a lot for me for 2 days. I mean, 1 day for 2 graduations, but for you to support that's huge. And I thank you for that.
Any other board reports?
I just want to say thank you so much to all the students and the parents and the families that came out to the graduation. It was just so awesome. Yes, I did attend 11 of those graduations, and I'm sorry that I missed one of them, and that was Sean Nichols at, pardon me, at Sumner. And that is I just want to say that's one of the most important programs here in the city of St. Louis, because they go back and they get the students that might have given up for a moment, but they are there encouraging the students, and they show them love. And those that might have given up, they have hope, and they are able to obtain their diplomas. And so that was a really important program. And I just want to say, forgive me for not being there, but I'm so glad that they are there, and that Mr. Bean's program is really, really crucial to the district as well. So I just want to say how proud we are of those 2 programs. And I want to congratulate the program at Nottingham, Carnahan, Central VPA, Clyde C. Miller, Collegiate, Gateway STEM, McKinley, Metro, Roosevelt, Soldan, Sumner, and Vashon. We love you. And I just want to say, when I grabbed the students' hands to say congratulations, there was so many sweaty palms. The kids were so nervous. You could see some of their little lips were trembling, and they were just excited with joy, and some of them were kind of stunned. But I just wanted them to know that we're going to do everything we can to get you everything that you need to be successful in this community, and we love you.
I'm all touched. I echo the sentiments of Tony and Donna about graduations just being so beautiful. I think I feel like this has been like a really difficult year for kids, for students, for us, a lot of unexpected transitions, things you can't plan for. But it's the same thing, like what you said, Tony, about those being an aha moment of this is why you do it. And I really do that energy just permeates the room. I will go through every single thing that has happened, which is a lot since I joined again. If it was to get to see those moments, to get to see those parents, to get to see those families and how proud they are. And I also got a chance to go to Collegiate has an internship program, and they have a senior capstone project presentation. And I got to be one of the judges, and those presentations and those scholars, it was given scholar, it was given professionals, and even they got to intern at a geospatial firm. They got to intern at in St. Louis County Prosecutor's Office. There was a setup with Chris King, who's well known in media. The things that those kids got, that there was a kid who got to go to a neuro lab, and they were really getting to be hands-on, and you got to hear from them themselves, their presentations. You could see how excited they were. Susan Katzman, I think is her name. She did an amazing job coordinating the whole thing. It was just such a privilege to get to see them, and I couldn't believe. I'm only it was just so great. And seeing them and some of them knew kind of what we were up to. Some of them had thoughts on specifically 1552. Thank you for keeping the money. And they have very positive things to say. So it was great. It was grounded. And even today I got to go to Yateman Middle School's graduation, and for a 8th grade graduation, there was a vice president from US Bank that gave a scholar there $5,000 renewable scholarship, so $20,000 going into high school. Like, again, like this district is doing so many amazing things that I don't even think it could be highlighted. And I'm always like, whenever people, you really can't even compare us to so many other districts because like we have minimum resources and we're paying teachers top-notch dollars, we're doing top-notch services, and we're just like figuring it out. And and when we get chances to observe how it's paying off, like I love those moments. So I'm so proud of all the scholars. I'm so proud of all the families, and I'm so proud of all of you all as board members and Dr. Adams, you know, putting all these graduations together, kind of being the person directly over all of that. Like something is being done right. I know we get a lot of shade a lot of time for like, we're missing something, we're underserving people, but something is being done right despite all of the challenges that we have.
Well, I know the students and everybody who's been working in a school building in particularly have had an incredibly difficult year. It's been an incredibly difficult couple of years, but this one has been particularly tough, and that sort of makes everything that you all are highlighting even more sweet. So I hope all of them have a very well-deserved, restful break, and most importantly, a very safe break. So if there's nothing else, can we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ms. Sonier. Ms. Lau.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
We are adjourned.